Better throw some respect on my name. Gotta remind these folks on the daily, cause I ain't really been myself as of lately. My mind's evolving and my heart is changing. Starting to see the world how it should be. It's positively sweet.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode from Boyz Cement. I'm your host, Terry, Mr. King. And today, y'all, I got a special guest on. He knew me from the Sandbox days. And look, like, the funny thing about I knew this man majority of my life. So, like, just know I wouldn't have nobody on this show that would not benefit somebody that's watching the show in any shape or form. Like, this guy, like, just his life journey alone is going to touch a lot of people. And I would not have nobody else on this closing episode for season 3 than this guy right here, man. Like, we're just literally discussing like some childhood stuff beforehand, but like, man, bro, this guy is big into the things that you need to be big into in order to be successful and to be well-grounded and humble human being. And it's like basically what everybody in this world needs to be these days. But I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Howdy. Jesse Lacoste, man.
Yes, sir.
It's good to be here this morning. I appreciate you having me on. And you started out, man, that's some big shoes to fill over there. You're talking some big words.
Hey,
I appreciate the kind words,
I know you
brother.
got it, brother, because, man.
Hey, like we were talking about right before we got on, man, it's not me. It's all glory to Christ.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about.
That journey that God put us on and
right.
the shoes that he allowed us to feel is the reason why you're sitting right across from me
That's
today.
it.
And not only just that, I'm allowed to sit in front of you because God put everybody in your life for a reason.
Boom.
And you don't know at the moment what the reason for, but over time, looking back, you connect the dots.
That's it.
And you just keep those connections. And then somehow y'all get together and make something magic.
Man. It's divine appointment. You know, I don't believe in coincidence.
Oh, yeah. It's never. Because, look, when I first started working out, like serious working out, I run into you all the time I was at Real Time.
Real Time.
I used to see you all the time, Real Time. And then they shut down, came back, went to Anytime.
That was my home, man.
I know.
That was my home.
I know. Then went to Anytime. And out of anybody I ran into, the really first guy I really ran into other than the manager was your granddad. So that I was like,
He's probably there more than the manager.
exactly. He was there just as much time as the manager. He just got paid.
Yeah.
Because like I was like, bro, this ain't no coincidence. I ran into you on 9. I was like, bro, me and Jesse got some stuff to do later on.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. But when it comes around, hey, and everything lined up perfectly.
It all comes full circle.
Oh,
It
yeah.
always does, man.
Exactly, man. Bro, so let's tell these people a little bit more about you. Because I know a little bit of your backstory, but these people don't know nothing about you. Let's go ahead and go into that a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of overview.
Yeah, let's talk about childhood and everything.
Yeah. As far as childhood, you know a lot about that.
Yeah, good old days.
The fun years. You know, of course, I came up locally. I say that. I came up locally since I was about 2.
Yeah.
You know, out in Cantonment, of course. And
Yes, sir.
rough little part, man. The old village, Cantonment Village.
People don't understand. Like,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
They used to call that area the White Ghetto.
yeah,
That was a rough little spot. And then in the 90s, it was a whole lot rougher than it was. You had, Folk Nation and AK Gang.
yeah,
And just a lot of drug and gang culture. It really wannabe gang culture.
Yeah.
Which can honestly be
just
a
as
lot
bad.
more, a lot more dangerous
Yeah,
because it's people trying to prove themselves.
That's true.
You know, a bunch of wannabes trying to prove themselves can be dangerous. You know,
I see that all the
never
time.
know what someone's capable of. So that culture and that whole just era there was we didn't realize how bad it was coming up.
Nah, we're just enjoying the time.
Yeah, and that area down there, it's calmed down in a lot of ways, but it's still really, really overtaken. You know, with meth use and meth production and a lot of other things. And there's the sad areas. Of course, a lot of people very, very close to me, some of them and their families have gone down in a lot of that from childhood. And, it's sad to see people go that direction. But in an area like that, you got to remember, that's the majority.
Yeah.
you know.
Especially in Cantonment, yeah.
Yeah. So in those specific areas, of course, there's a lot of. It's a very mixed area. There's a lot of nice areas, but you're talking as close as you get to Booker, into the village, into the old village where we were from. Of course, that was a poppin' area in the 40s.
Of course.
That was actually the plant. Back then, it was Monsanto or Champion.
Yeah.
And before it sold off many times over to become IP. Those were actually all the little block homes that they built in the 1940s for a lot of their employees. And then, of course, over time, that always turns into, poverty comes in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the outskirts in the downtown. It flows in, it flows out, it flows in, it flows out. And that particular area, of course, just got overridden. And it's a cheap area to live. So naturally,
you're going to automatically, it's cheap, so I can save money.
That's it.
And you want to go.
That's it, And you're talking a bunch of, 600 square foot to maybe 1,000 square foot homes. When we came up in, you're talking 1,000 square foot home with 6 kids.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
That's a tight fit.
Everybody sharing. Hey, everybody bunking up together. I was sort of similar in that standpoint.
But we were blessed, man. We had a roof over our heads. We had 2 awesome parents that loved us. Taught us about Christ, kept us shielded from at least the majority of that lifestyle out there. You can't help but dig into some of it, the fighting and all of those things that just come with a territory like that. But for the most part, inside those 4 walls, my mom and daddy did a great job of keeping us in a Christ-based atmosphere as much as they could. So. And
you realize, like, saying that, I realize how much most of our parents, like, did that for us. They shielded us from, like, the outskirts of what was going on. Because, like, really, I didn't know how bad certain stuff was until I got older.
Uh-huh.
Then I started paying attention to myself. I was like, dang, I didn't even know this area was that bad. I didn't know this was that. I knew certain things, but it was like.
Next door at little Johnny's house, and Daddy was counting right there on the counter.
Exactly. like what the. Like,
I was 6. I didn't even know what that was.
Exactly. And you think, I was like, damn, how much stuff really our parents blocked. That's like, because if it wasn't for them, think about how bad how worse off we could have been.
So at different levels, in life and I guess certain stepping stones and checkpoints I've hit and growth spiritually, I've been able to look back and reference to myself a lot of what you're just hitting on, where it was, wow, I really was protected, or at minimum, it set the right tone from the beginning for my heart and for my mindset. So even when I got lost in some of those things, I come full circle. And it's like Scripture says, raise them up in the way, they're going to come back to it.
You. Yes, sir.
So when I got older, when I did realize some of these things, and when I hit some of my own downfalls and downspouts and rough times and hurdles, even unrelated to that, I knew where to turn to. It kind of set that base for me. Oh, yeah. So, and I think that's one of the greatest ways that they shield us and protected us. Yeah. Our hearts, our minds.
Because, like I said, mind is a terrible thing to waste, and the renewing of the mind is really important. And like you said, when you go through these downfalls, like, because when I went to jail, and even though I know I was like falsely accused and all this other stuff, I was still in there, and I was like, man, I started blaming. I had to look at myself and blame myself because I had put myself in that situation. But that situation helped me grow in like such a more mature standpoint. Because it took me all the way to me going to jail to actually self-reflect. And then realizing while I was in there, all I did was read. And you know what I read? I read the Bible. I actually read the Bible 3 times while I was in jail for the 3 months I was in there. And then when I try to tell you, like, those down moments where you're at your lowest is a part where you can get the most growth in life.
It is.
And it's such, like, look at that moment, you don't see it, but looking back, you're thankful for those moments because
you got to have joy in your sorrow, man.
Yes.
That's so huge. What you're hitting on there is so huge when it comes to growth. Being able to understand there's a difference between worldly sorrow and godly sorrow.
Yeah.
Godly sorrow breeds repentance and brings you back around to Christ.
Yeah.
Transforms your mind And then you start to find joy. Not immediately. Don't feel like it when you're going through it.
Of course.
It's not fun when you're in the moment.
Oh, I was crying like a baby, and it
it's
hurt.
tough, man. In situation to situation, it's tough, man. It's always hard. It's when you look back on it, or when you've been through it a few times at different levels. To that, when he's taking you through something new, it's when you're able to look back and be like, all right, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I recognize this again. I know what you're doing. I know there's some resistance here for a reason. There's a blessing on the other side. There's growth on the other side, and you can recognize that as a necessary growth pain.
Yeah.
Instead of something detrimental to your life.
Oh yeah, because that shaped my life for the better. Because it looked like people don't understand negative is just as important as positive, because like the negative things that happen, it builds like that. It's that mustard seed of faith that you got inside of you. That's that soil and help it grow. And then when your light when it blooms, your light is just shining so bright, because like this is what this is all about. Because
right.
I want like, let our light shine and let them know like, it's okay to go through these things, but if you make it through this, on the other side, you're gonna have this whole different mind on how you an outlook on life in general.
That's it.
And your relationships with the people that are needed to be like the most important people in your relationship. Because before I got in trouble, my relationship with my family and my son and my kids wasn't what it should have been. I was more focused just on me versus focusing on the people that I needed to focus on. And
redirecting that priority.
It redirected it, so it literally flipped it from what was last became first, and I put myself.
So you needed it.
I needed it, and I thank God. People
even if you felt like this shouldn't be happening to me. I shouldn't go through this. Whatever it stemmed from may not, be applicable, or you may not be at fault for.
Yeah.
But you still needed it on your journey and on your path.
Exactly.
I can identify with that so much.
Exactly. It's like, man, bro, because when I look back now, that whole situation, like, man, it was like I feel like it was my lowest moment of my whole life, because I felt like I was on this high horse, and it took like, I'm gonna say like, all right, let's say Job. You know how Job, he had everything he thought he wanted and everything he asked for, and then the devil asked like, oh, you got him so protected, at least some of your hinges, I bet he won't praise you.
Yeah.
And look, I had stepped away from the church a little bit, like I still, I believe, but I wasn't like practicing what the words was like saying.
You weren't walking with Jesus.
I wasn't walking. I wasn't walking with Jesus, and then when that happened, it humbled me, because I realized like everything that I had accomplished was because of him, and this is things I asked him for, opportunities he gave me, and I wasn't giving the praise back to him, and it turned it turned me from it made me feel like I was back as a little kid, and I didn't realize like when you go back and you feel like you're a little kid again, you can find like this purity about yourself. But I had to literally shuffle out all the bullshit that I had in my system and in my life, and if it wasn't for that moment and that situation, like.
It's funny you describe it like that, man, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And this is probably why you saw me focus in there. It took me back to some of my own growth and situations and hurdles, and I think that's the only way that we're able to come back in union with God. Obviously through Christ alone, but as far as turning our hearts and then kind of humbling ourselves back to Him, is to get to that point where we're almost in that childlike state again. Yeah. Like he talks about childlike faith. Yeah. That's the only way that our pride is peeled back enough for us to actually approach Him.
What? Ooh, you said that. Because like until recently, I realized like I was a real prideful person, and learning how to swallow my pride and understand like, I don't have to be this prideful to get stuff done and to work with people, because pride is just going to hinder me and my growth versus helping the masses.
That's it.
The pride, when you can picture, like I said, when most people get themselves out of the way, the blessing can actually come to them in the way it's supposed to come to them.
That's right, man. And mentioning pride, like we say, going back to the word, it's the original sin.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us separated from him all along.
Exactly.
And it builds from childhood. Speaking on childhood and kind of going back to some of those things on that subject, that's what that creates. That's what that atmosphere creates. It's like me, growing up in those times. You remember from those days, and people meet me nowadays walking with Jesus, and they get a whole different Jesse. But that was I was known for fighting.
Of course,
that's all I did every day.
I trust me.
Home, school, bus, everywhere I went.
Parties for real. I used to hear I went to Josh Banks' party right when we got out of high school. They was like, "Yo, Jesse about to kick somebody's ass outside." I said, "What?" Yeah.
Not proud of those days, man. But it's what that atmosphere created. You put someone with, I don't mean this in a boastful way, but you put someone with natural abilities in a atmosphere like I grew up in. Not even in those days. That's when it was already formed, and I was deep down that path.
Yeah.
But even from true, boyhood and childhood, elementary, middle school, junior high levels. Into that sort of neighborhood, and that's all Hey, I've got to fight every single day
to protect yourself.
That's it. So then you go into a public school, or kids. You get a little older into junior high, and you're mixing with kids of different areas and different backgrounds mixing in, and they don't get it.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that mindset, and really at that age you don't. You don't get it yourself. You just think that's normal, and that's how everyone is. That's how you came up. That's how you shaped and molded into that person by your surroundings. And you haven't expounded your mind enough to be able to recognize that in the first place, and then break free of it. So that only forms into later years through junior high, through high school, through post high school, and to a point where you're 14, 16, 18. And at the drop of a hat, you're a violent person. You're angry, and and even when you're not, you feel like you have to be, or at least show that mantra.
That facade.
Yeah. Hey, this is the way that I got to handle this, or they're not going to respect me. They're not going to do this. And then when you see, even when you're in the situation where you do legitimately have to, say you're still back in that environment on a daily and weekly basis, you're put into a position where you do have to do that. Yeah. And it becomes a survival tactic, especially when you have a situation where you understand and realize you've been given a natural ability or talent at this. Hey, I'm good at this. Well, going forward, that's how I'm going to start to solve all my problems.
Yeah.
It worked.
It worked that time.
It worked over and over and over and over and over. So naturally, when you get out of that environment, it's hard to adapt and stay away from it. And not just fighting, not just violence, but a lot of the ideologies that come along with that. It provides a lot of that same pride.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest. I'm the baddest. And I tell you what, that's, man, coming up. And close buddies of mine would laugh. Anyone who was around me during that era, whether school buddies, especially from the neighborhood and all. Daniel, you'll see this is one of them. Man, he kept me he kept me out of a lot of trouble, and that was we still joke about it from time to time today. Just looking back at how foolish I was in those times, I should have gotten a whole lot more trouble, and it really a lot of it came down to one statement. I'll whoop anybody in the room. When you hear something like that and that pride is set in your heart, anybody.
Oh, you calling me out?
Anybody?
Because I'm anybody.
Because I'm in the room. You feel like they're talking to you, and it's so silly now. Yeah. We can look back and see it's so silly now. It's so self-centered, so prideful. That person I'm not even on their radar. Yeah. But in that mindset, coming from that culture, coming from a survival tactic that you have ingrained in your mind, you feel like you have to.
Yeah, because you feel like they're talking to you.
It's barbaric. It's primal. It's hey, you challenged me. Yeah. I was a part of the challenge. I'm on the other end of that bargain, and now you have to prove it. And it's it sounds funny looking back at it now, but when you grow, you can see it for what it is. And I realized how much hatred, how much pain, how much trouble, how much trauma that caused in my life and in my childhood that was so avoidable. Not to mention, we came up in an era of zero tolerance.
Oh yeah, I got my ass beat so many times. It's ridiculous. Like I think I got permanent whip marks on my back, and people don't believe me, but yeah, my mom kicked my ass.
Well, and see, even not just from a household level, but from a
School level.
school
Yeah.
and correctional and lawful, legal, that error, I think it was really detrimental to a lot of kids.
Yeah.
They didn't take any time to understand kids. They didn't take any time to
None.
fix anything. It was all Band-Aid and it was all cold turkey. So
Yeah.
you had no adaptation there. It was,
Do
you're
what
brought up in this, and this is how this is what you're stuck with. This is all you know.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do this to survive there. But when you come in here, you don't know the intention of these other people, adults, children, whatever the case may be. And should you touch anyone, automatic.
Yeah.
If you're defending yourself, doesn't matter. Automatic.
Yeah.
You're defending a sibling, doesn't matter. Automatic. And you're turning good children,
Yeah.
good-hearted children with the wrong mindset or maybe thrown into the wrong position, and you're making them criminals
Yeah.
at an elementary, junior high, high school age.
Oh yeah, I remember Miss Elton actually did that a couple times to a couple kids in our class.
Yeah.
And like, man, it's like you said, it's crazy looking back at it now because like we did come up in the zero tolerance era.
Yeah.
Because I look at like schools, like our parents could pop up at any time. If we got in trouble at school, they'll call our parents. We get in the whooping. We can't even explain ourselves and everything else. So we like, Mom, this did not even happen. It didn't happen like that. No, they ain't hear that. They took you to the bathroom, whooped your ass, brought you back to class. You had to go on about your day. Same thing with church. Like, oh, you up there talking or you sleep, you getting popped in the back of your head, and it's mandatory. You gotta go. It's not no, oh, if you feel like going, no, you have to be in there.
And some of it stern raising, and I get the mentality behind it, and I can agree with at least the heart behind a lot of it. And it's hard to really blame the parents because you got to remember, man, they came up in a different era as well,
Which was harder than we grew up in.
And when they were introduced into that, as parents now, their kids are doing the same thing they did, but the school and law is treating it way, way different.
Yeah.
I look back at that now especially in earlier years, say, 5 years ago, at the age, my mom and dad would have been around that time in my life.
Yeah.
And I look at my mindset, and had I gone to a school and the law's involved and there's an officer in the room, I would have been freaking out too.
Yeah.
Because when you're a child, you don't see your parents the same way. They're just a human. You think, well, mommy and daddy know it all.
Yeah.
They got this figured out. You don't realize they're growing up with you.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why they treated it a lot different as well and took it to the extra serious level because they're just scared for you at that time in that moment. And the law and the school made it such a petty situation, so serious.
Oh, yeah.
They were a bit petrified as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, little Johnny, little Susie's in this situation, and I can't fix it this time. Now let's take it out on little Johnny and little Susie so that they never find themselves in this position again. Not realizing, it's something that 20 years prior, it would have been like, shake hands, go back to class.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Because, I found myself in a couple of those situations a couple times in high school. But, like I said, it's different. It's so different now because, like I got a son. And I think about the things I worried about back then is not the same things that I worry about now for him, because you see how things have changed and it's more publicized, like the treatment of, like, I'm gonna say black kids and everything in general. I was like, or not even just black kids for poverty, because white kids from poverty get the same treatment as black kids majority of the time.
I can tell you that, man. I can be testimony to that.
Of course.
Whether it's coming up in that era, run-ins with teachers, run-ins with laws, and there was a few of those, that were really, really great and had kind hearts. There's a couple of teachers out there that really, really made a difference on my way. Miss McCrae, if you remember her.
Oh yeah, Miss McCrae. Yeah. Hey, that was the angel of, like, out of every teacher that I say could shape a kid and like get them on the right path.
Made you want to do better.
Made
you want to do better. Tate, where I went off to after ransom, Miss Cheryl.
See,
She had a way. I don't know. She had a way of inspiring in her classroom that made you want to learn, made you want to do better, made you want to improve. It needs to be more,
teachers like that.
absolutely, more individuals out there that actually have a heart for teaching and have a heart for not just the curriculum, but for growing children into adults. And I think that's where you see a lot of that change come from.
Yeah, because there's always that one teacher. Because for me, because I ended up going to West Florida after ransom,
Yeah.
which I did not want to. My mom forced me to. Thank you. But I thank her for it now because
That's
I
right.
look back at it, like she made me get out of a place I would have been comfortable at. Or she said I probably got in trouble if I wanted to take. I look back now, yeah, I probably would have. And I had to go find my way again
Yeah.
all by myself, but at an older age versus like how I did when I went from elementary school to another elementary school.
Yeah.
So, man, it was this one teacher. And think about it. At first, how I looked at him, it was like the worst teacher ever. His name was Mr. Novotny. But as I grew and knew him more and more, it was like he just being hard because he's like, hey, I need you. Like, you're not applying yourself to the full potential that I know you can apply yourself to.
I see something in you and I want to bring it out.
Exactly. And at first I was like, man, why you always just picking on me? But then, like, after I sit back and, like, looked at the whole chessboard for what it was versus what I'm believing it is at the one piece, he was really trying to not just teach you the world history. He's trying to shape you to make your history out to be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And if Mr. Rodney, you watching this one day, yo, thank you again because
There you go.
you pushed me.
That's right. Hey, shout out to the people that make an impact in our lives.
Exactly. And like you said, I wish there were more teachers like that.
Absolutely.
And I feel like especially these kids, this generation, they need more teachers like that because that pride, like we was talking about, these kids literally, the littlest thing can turn into like mass shootings and like someone run up to them, they run, like these kids are wilding out 10 times worse than we wild out. We fought with our hands and our hands. That was it. These kids are fighting with machine guns, ARs, and like I was like, where y'all getting these weapons from? And what is the problem that bad where you need to go shoot up the whole block or whole neighborhood or the whole school? It's
a heart problem.
It's a heart exactly.
It's a heart problem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't strip morality. You can't strip God from the school.
Yeah.
And then wonder why people aren't acting godly.
Oh, hey, because we did used to. They did take that away. You just said something there because I remember when they did that because it happened when we was in school when they started taking stuff away from.
The world's going to act like the world, man.
Yeah.
And that's not just from a school perspective. You see it in politics. You see it everywhere you look. You look at social media, wars, everywhere, media.
Yeah.
People get so shocked about the state that we're in right now. And in some ways, like, don't get me wrong, it's like, as a human, wow, that's crazy, that's terrible, that's this, that's that. But I don't know, man. I just have this, I guess, realization the more and more I grow to Christ and more I dig into the Word of I expect that, I anticipate that. Like I said, the world's going to act like the world.
Yes.
Why are we shocked by that?
I'm not. That's like even what's going on right now. Like when I look at it like from a military standpoint, but I just look at it a worldly standpoint. I was like, y'all can't get mad at Russia. They're just doing what every other place done. They're growing. They're trying to expand to become a bigger spot than what they really are.
It's funny you make that point. It's funny that you make that point that way because I can totally appreciate the way that you formulated that thought. I think it's relevant even to our own home nation. You know, here in the U.S., I think even with a lot of our own issues, whether that be, you know, current issues, history, certain terrible things that we're guilty of in the past, a lot of people really, really zoom in to that being an American issue. And it's not. It's not. You know, let's point out, if we're talking about, you know, current issues, whether it's refugees, whether that's, you know, border status, whether that's
yeah.
some of the histories. Let's point out elephants in the room.
Yeah.
Let's look at slavery. Let's
Yeah.
look at, some of the different, horrible parts of American history. But people do the same thing. They dive in like it's an American issue. No, it's a hard issue and it's a world issue. And it's something that's as old as time.
Yes.
And it's happened in almost every civilization since the beginning of man.
Exactly.
In some places it still is. But we penalize the U.S. like they're the only ones. And don't get me wrong.
Oh, no,
it's not an issue that you want to try to justify or no one wants to stand on that hill.
Yeah.
But I think looking at it from an objective point of view,
Yeah.
why are we hanging ourselves for this and not using it to catapult ourselves forward and grow and heal?
Exactly. Because look,
and realize, so here's the beauty of it, and really, really take what I'm saying in terms of face value here, because it is not a downplay on the severity.
Oh yeah.
At all.
Oh yeah.
It's actually a praise to God that we're one of the youngest nations and that we dealt with it for the shortest period of time. As horrible as it is.
Yeah.
As horrible as it is. Yeah. I relate that to other much, much older nations and their rise and fall, or certain areas where maybe they were under different empowerments but still dealt with that same root issue for thousands of years. And I look at how we were stripped of that at such a young age as a nation, and I equate that to Quakers. I equate a lot of different roles that are played in there. Rights activists and all that. Yeah. All of that stemming from a heart from Christ that stood up and said,
"This not right."
Whoa.
Yeah.
Y'all was cool with that. We're not cool with that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think you see that more and more and more every single generation. You look at even from grandparents, great-grandparents, and I think a lot of them don't even realize. It's kind of like what we were just talking about with childhood. It's not a victim mentality because you overcame it.
Yes.
It equates to every part of life. You look at even adults, they're just grown children.
Yeah.
It's some of the same struggles. It really is. And they have something ingrained in their minds. And they have to be broken from that. Hey, this is wrong. And I don't mean just slavery. I don't mean just racial issues, but I think it applies to anything. That should have to be a great example.
Yeah.
And every generation is further and further and further removed
from
that, if they're rooted in that belief in Christ and morality.
Yes, because one thing I applaud Germany for, because I have a friend from Germany. They said every year until they graduate, they're forced to visit where the Holocaust is at, because they try to make sure they talk about it. It's like, so this will never happen again. So it's like, this is how bad it could have got. This is one type of person to cultural person. Like, I applaud them for that, because I look at it, I was like, dang, if they actually force us until we graduate out of high school to see, this how bad it was, this how we're living, this how detriment our country used to be, and we're not trying to go back to that. We're trying to move forward from that, and once that is actually applied, with not just with racial issues, with any issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But think about this. Think about this, and let's even use that for an example, since we're on the topic.
Yeah.
When we were in school, you had a lot of that. We did learn about that.
They took all that out. They took all that out.
National issues, world issues, all of it. It's slowly being torn away. We have people tearing down statues around the nation, wanting to remove history, in the name of growth.
Yeah.
I don't think that equates to growth. I think it's the exact opposite, of what you just described. If we're not educated on it, we're going to repeat that same mistake. Because I can tell you, I've looked at it personally. Yeah. Coming up and as an adult and through different sets of eyes, through different checkpoints through life, and I've never seen it. Any documentation, any look at statues, or whatever the case you may be, towards any of those items or periods of history, I've never seen it as a praise. Yeah. I've seen it as what you just described. Yeah. You know what? That's what we've made it through. Praise God. Yeah. That's what we've overcome. Let's educate ourselves on what that was, how that came to be, and everything surrounding that, so we can never, ever, ever fall back into something that horrendous.
Yeah, because like I can see both sides because like I'm the most calm, well-rounded perspective of it all.
Yeah.
Because like exactly what you said, like it depends on how people look at it, and like a lot of people, I see them looking at it in the way where, how I put it, it's like they're in a fight or flight situation, and they want this world to be shaped in their viewpoint, but there's not just one person in this world.
That could be dangerous.
And
that can be dangerous.
That's dangerous. I say it's got to be a more well balanced outlook on this world and everything.
And a lot of it being so agenda based, though. Kind of describing some of the things you just some of the same things that you just mentioned. There, and I'll go back to trying to remove history instead of appreciating it and growing from it, as you mentioned, as you commended Germany for. Some of the items that they're taking away are not just representative of some of the detrimental areas to our nation. They're actually highlighting points of growth. Some of the first, Black American landowners. Yes. Some of the first Black American landowners, brother, is some of the areas that they're trying to destroy. They're tearing down statues of them. So it's like they're so ingrained in this mentality of narrow way, narrow way, narrow way. They lump it all together. Here's why they're tearing it down. Yeah. They didn't learn the history. No. They're the first generation that didn't learn the history. Yeah. So they're attacking it because they don't even realize who that statue is of. Yeah. They don't realize it doesn't, going back to what I was just saying, they don't realize that particular one is not highlighting the areas of our detrimental, or history that was detrimental to our nation. Yeah. It's highlighting the areas of growth, the positive turning points, the changes, and them not being educated on that history. They don't know where to start. They can't appreciate it. Yeah. And appreciate, everyone throws that word around, but I mean the true root term, appreciate, whether that's positive or negative. Yeah. You have to appreciate both. Yeah. So you can form that full stance.
Exactly, because I feel like our nation never allowed. I think they try to look at it like, if we look at anything in a negative viewpoint, it's bad. Which actually, no, is where we can grow from it.
That's it.
There's always, like, in order for us to have positive, there has to be a negative.
It's true.
So,
this is true.
Like, but I feel like when it comes to a point where we actually start acknowledging more of our bad, and it's like, yo, we fucked up here. Because a lot of it comes down to people like trying to say, oh, no, that didn't happen. I was like, no, just acknowledge it and let's grow from it. And that's on both sides. Yeah. That's actually on every side. Yeah. Because,
well, like you mentioned, many, many more issues. That's one topic, but well-rounded. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things that we're, as a nation, and like I said, world issues that are faults that are not surfaced yet. Not just historic, very modern faults.
Oh yeah.
Some of that are being surfaced now.
Oh, trust me, because I was not taking that shot. All right, we ain't gonna get into that, but
I'm with you.
Hey,
I'm with you.
I was like,
I got my own standpoints there.
Yeah, because
I'm with you. I'll say this and leave it alone. Okay. I'm very loud about my stances. Yeah. Spiritually.
You're supposed to be.
In Christ. There's definitely some agendas there. They're not playing peekaboo anymore. Yeah. They're not behind the curtain. So if you don't see them, you're choosing to ignore them. You're choosing to be blind. And I won't even say anything very specific, but just from a general stance, far before things progress into that level, I'll say even things like I have a lot of foreign friends.
Of course.
I have a lot of friends that have moved over or moved over temporarily at different points in life from different nations. When they come to the U.S. and they see commercials of medications with big pharma pushing different products, that is the weirdest thing in the world to them. And think about this, man. Coming up, you didn't think that was abnormal. You thought that was
supposed to be
Burger King commercial, a leaf.
Because that's what we were conditioned. Because until you start traveling outside the world, outside our country, you don't see You don't see the things that, like how people look at us and look, but see what they got on their news channels. They don't post it. Like, we're the only one that actually do that.
Absolutely. So you can kind of take that and run with it. And then you put an agenda behind it, and you kind of see where I'm going there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me. I see exactly where you're going, and I agree with where you're going because, like, this is my major. My major is actually communication, telecommunication, like broadcast and media and everything. So you start paying attention to different things. You see how they try to push a certain agenda to a certain, even to certain groups of people. Because I was on the listening to the radio one time, and this is always talking about these so-called shots and stuff or everything else too. I changed to a different radio station. I ain't hear a damn commercial about it. I was like, so fuck, you tell me you posting, it's like non-stop on this one, but it's not. I was like,
well, kind of building on what I was just talking about, just from overall, even from 10, 20 years removed from them being allowed to do that.
Yeah.
In a lot of nations, that's actually illegal.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's.
You go.
Here's this medication. Come get it like candy. You need this.
Of course.
So roll that into what you were just describing with the shots. Anytime the government
try to force something, you're the test dummy.
Well, not just that, but almost in the spirit of or in the name at least of helping. There's a whole lot of other things you could have helped with all along.
Of course.
You hear it every social media, any outlet, television. I don't watch a lot of television myself, but I don't think I've turned mine on in years.
Just got it just for looks.
Well, hey man, I'm not real big into entertainment from a perspective, unless it's something to do educational or growth or something that aspect.
Oh yeah.
I'm really, really not. I call it zombie brain.
Yep.
I don't like to do anything. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you. No,
entertainment
you're talking
is good when it's scheduled
and used appropriately.
Boom. Hey, I'm going to watch this college football game, or I'm going to literally go in person to watch this college football game. This is a scheduled event for leisure time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfectly okay.
Yep.
10 hours of this.
Oh yeah.
Flipping on, or people will talk about you doing that, and the same ones will go home after work and spend 4 hours a day in front of the TV. I've been asked about this Yellowstone, Yellow something series, Netflix. I don't know enough about it.
You got me.
I've been asked about it 500 times.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not demonizing those things.
Oh yeah.
That's fine. There's a time and a place, like I say, for all of it. But if that's consuming you to the point of, it's taking up that much of your day,
you might as well get paid for it.
Well, hey, that's a good point there. But what I'm looking at is, from that level or many others, I always look at it as I only have so many hours a day.
24 hours in a day.
What is it robbing me from?
Yeah. What are you using it for?
Yeah.
I use the same.
If I'm using it on that, that's robbing from somewhere.
Yep.
Is it from my children? Is it from God? Is it from time in the Word, praise, worship? Is it from work?
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of dreams that I keep talking to the Lord about. So if I'm talking to Him about this and I'm just putting in my measly 8 hours and I'm, putting all that free time into something that I ain't doing nothing, I'm gonna feel a little silly saying that prayer again tomorrow.
Ooh, and that comes with maturity and self accountability. But no, you touched on a part right there. You start talking about family, because all right, you're a father and family. I know that's a big part of you, and they shaped you to like I feel like kids shape us. Our parents shape us as well too, but our kids help mold us into the person we actually always wanted to be.
Yeah,
because they think we're the superhero.
That's it.
We're the Superman.
That's it.
Yeah,
I feel like God uses them in a lot of ways, and He shows His own love for us through our love for them.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that I've been in prayer or felt that, that distant, eerie feeling, even if it was just in your mind, and it wasn't legitimate at all, and then turn around to my babies and know my unconditional love for them and know that was literally, that was just a foreshadowing, that was more so just a mirror image of a much lesser mirror image of His love for me, and it's like, bam, it clicked.
Yeah.
It clicked. why am I so worried about that, Lord? If I love them this much and I'm a flawed earthly father,
Yeah.
you're perfect. You're most high. And you call me your child when I didn't deserve it. You adopted me into your kingdom. So how much more do you love me?
Exactly.
And I'm worried about the petty. I'm worried about little religious-minded things when you're talking about something far greater and above anything that I'm talking about.
Exactly.
You know, and you talk about going into family, man. I think a lot of what helped me realize that, and the actual appreciation for it, what goes back to childhood. It's funny how all that blends together. Yeah. Yes, there were some of the, and we highlighted on some of the extreme negatives there. That's all there was. But one thing that I did have was family. I mentioned being a one of six, and mom and dad still in the house, and that's a rarity. My daddy passed away when I was really young. Yeah. But yeah, having six of us, same mom and daddy, and growing up in the same house, especially in a neighborhood like that, I had friends that envied me and that shared that as in childhood and shared that when we were grown, of you guys being together as a family, having mom and dad in the same household in a happy marriage, and rooting you on Christ like that. I didn't know how blessed I was. Yeah, I really didn't know how blessed I was. Rare. And it really gave me appreciation that I didn't even realize I had until I was older. And removed from that for family, for marriage, for a household centered around God. And you grow up with these built-in friends.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny, I see, or I guess have seen, not each and every family, but the family drama and this and that. So-and-so doesn't talk to so-and-so anymore and this and that. And I can't get that. I can't get that because me and five of us are grown, and we've kind of taken over some of those roles now.
Yep.
And I love my siblings to death. Yeah. We're close as could be. We're still friends to this day and age, and we're probably closer now
than you were
in a
back
lot
then.
of ways than we thought we were then. Yeah. We were close on a friend and childhood level and play level, and that sibling bond. But now it's it's different.
Whole different ball game now.
It's different.
Because see, my family kept us rooted the same way, but after certain pillars fell in the family, the people that were right after them, they never filled them pillars in. So like my family has went from, other than being close knit, because every holiday, every Sunday, you see your cousins, you see everybody's there. Yeah. So now where it's just this small group of us that it's like exactly. It's like a small group that's sticking together, but at the same time, you got the other family on the outskirts that's not feel like they're not welcome to come back. And I'm trying to bring. I'm the person that trying to bring that back.
So you just hit a really good point. That I was going to touch on, and I've talked on this, a couple of times. Whether it be sharing or testimony or encouraging or even in this proceeding or radio or whatever. I think it's so important as part of that growth and part of that transformation. We talk about some of the older parts of life and not from any sort of victim mentality. Hey, acknowledging this was rough, this was tough, this was something, but we overcame it. We broke outside of that. Yeah. And then in later parts of life, part of that growth that I think our generation misses a lot. Not just people that have overcome anything. Maybe the problem is they haven't. Yeah. You see a lack of that. You don't see as large of family gatherings, Thanksgiving dinners, Thanksgiving lunches. It's a different Christmas. It's a different feel. It's a different spirit. And don't get me wrong. I understand that the Christmas magic that's just a part of growing up. And you realize mommy and daddy were the Christmas magic.
Of course,
I get that, but this is removed from that. This is in the spirit of family and communion and fellowship and bringing everyone together. It's like there's not in my family, but. And not even just our community, but everyone. Overall, even digging into some of the same things as a nation, it's you see it even in TV shows, movies, social media, and all those things. Anything highlighted, that family dynamic is much, much different now.
It's changed so much.
It has, and I think so. Bringing me back around, full circle to my point there, is our generation lacks that. It's our duty. It's our job. Look. I'm just gonna put it out there. If you're 25 or anywhere close to that and above, you're 25 to 30, and you ain't hosting Thanksgiving, if you ain't giving the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the great aunts and uncles a little break, we got a little problem. You gonna have to you gonna have to pull them pants up, pull them breeches up, tighten that belt, lift up, and slip your shoes on. You know. I think when I say our generation lacks, that's what I'm seeing. It's like they're still falling into some of those same childhood roles, not realizing, baby, it's time to pass the torch.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's also you got to force them to pass the torch too, because like with my family, there's a lot of strong-minded women.
That's part of it. That's a part of it.
Hey, so like I think it was last what holiday was it? I think it was Christmas or New Year's. Like
mama.
I'm the one. I'm the one to cook now. I'm the one to do the. Like if I'm on a grill, if it's grilling or something, I'm the one grilling now.
Yeah.
But when it come down to it, I'd be like, yo, I'll cook this, I'll cook that. They're like, nah. This she always do. I was like, man, she ain't gonna be here forever. So you might as well let me go ahead and start doing certain things. Cause like certain people have started taking over certain different dishes.
She been doing it 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Let her show up and eat.
Exactly.
Enjoy some sweet tea and go home.
And let her sit down. Let her complain a little bit. I know she's gonna complain because it ain't hers. Like, especially when it comes to potato salad, because my Aunt Gloria, she's the only one to make the potato salad, or that we allowed to make the potato salad. And I ask every time I come in there, I'm like, who made the potato salad? I'm not touching it if someone. So I understand certain stereotypes when it comes to like
some of those key roles.
Yeah. But I'm like, all right, you teaching me exactly how much you did for this, and we can get it cracking. We can make something better.
That's right.
We can still keep tradition. But
pass that trend, like you said.
Yeah,
pass
the
that
torch.
Tradition, pass that torch, pass that recipe down.
Because I want to bring it back to like Sunday dinners and stuff. Because my family was like big on that, and like ever since my great grandma and her sisters and her brother died, it literally like it displaced my family. Like they try to keep it going, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like sometimes it may not be that generation right after them that can bring that back, but it might have to be the generation after the generation.
Yes.
And like really,
well, that generation misses it.
Yeah.
We didn't get to experience it. We want that.
Yeah. So like now I'm getting to the point where like I'm in contact with like my family, my cousins and everything that I know they're still around here that don't be coming up there a lot. Yeah. I was like, bro, we got 10 acres outside. So I'm like, bro, this what I look at what my great granddaddy did and understood what he was trying to do versus them trying to look at it like, oh no, this, that, and third. I was like, no. He said this is a place for his family. If anyone needs a place to go, they should be able to come here. So
that's powerful. So you actually hit an amazing point right there, and that's something that it's huge in my life at this very stepping stone that I'm on now. Yeah. You know, just recently turning 30, and it's honestly been highlighted for at least the last 6 or 7 years, and just zoomed in the last couple. And it feeds into what we were just saying. And some people may listen in, some people might hear that, and they may think, you know, well, that's trivial, that's silly, that's this or that, for what it's worth, it's just Thanksgiving. No, it's not about that.
No.
You're missing the point.
Exactly.
It's not about that whatsoever. It's not that event. It's not that little one token. It's what stands behind it. It's what it stands for. It is that taking over. It is that lead charge that you take in your heart and mentally to drive the whole family forward as a generation. Yeah. I got this now. Yeah. We're going to elevate. Here's the direction we're headed. It's bigger than the macaroni at Thanksgiving. Yes. It's what it represents. Yes. We're bringing the family into fellowship. We're going to let the older generation relax.
Yeah.
We're going to show them what they've raised us to be.
Yeah.
We're going to retire our parents. We're going to look at family land.
Expand it.
Yes. You know, that's one of the things highlighted for me right now is looking for a way to where, you know, I can show my mama and my kids and my family things that they never got to be a part of before our generation. We're doing things, myself, my brother, you know, we're doing things that our family didn't see as the norm. They didn't see as possible.
And y'all making it possible.
That's it. That's it. So my children get exposed to certain things, and I'll talking about, rapping in family. It's the way that I try to raise them. It's not just about the older generation; it's the ones that come behind me as well.
Yeah.
You know, I take a look at my little ones in a trip that I just took, unfortunately for a funeral, and I had two short events where I had to, take off and go out of state, and my assistant was scheduling. You should
Yeah. Shout out to Chris because
there you go.
I was like,
She keeps me in line.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. He know me as Chris, but I go by Terrence now. So, she was like, "Oh, we got the same name." I was like, "Yeah, put it down in the books."